We're going to create an array of strings that will hold all the countries that we use for our game. And at the same time, we're going to create another property that will hold the player's current score. It is a game after all. Let's start with the new properties. We have these three IB outlets here we just added. Below those, I'll say var countries equals a string array and var score equals 0. So this first line is something we used in project 1. It creates a new property called countries that holds an array of strings. And the second one creates a new property called scores. Let's set to 0. As you've seen previously, Swift's type inference works wonders here. It figures out what type a variable or constant should be based on what we put into it. We're going to be putting all this to work over the next few minutes. First, let's fill our countries array with flags we have. So in our UIButton method here, we could write something like this. Countries.append Estonia. Then copy and paste that a few times. We've got France, we've got Germany, we've got Ireland. Let me scroll down a little bit so I can see more easily. There we go. Ireland. We've got Italy. We've got Monaco and Nigeria. Then Poland, Russia, then Spain, and finally US and UK. Alphabetically, it should be UK, US. There we go. US, UK. And that's fine. This is identical to the code you saw in Project 1, so there's nothing really to learn here. If you recall your Swift introduction though, you know there's a more efficient way of doing this, which is to create it all on one line. To do that, we'd use the plus equals operator with arrays. We would say instead, get rid of all this code, countries plus equals string of Estonia, then France, then Germany, then Ireland, Italy, Monaco, Nigeria, Poland, Russia, Spain, US, I think backwards again, UK and US. There we go. Boom. The next step is to write a method that shows 3 random flag images on the screen. Buttons have a set image method that lets us control what picture is shown and when. So we can use that with UIImage to display our flags. So below UIButton load, we'll add this new method. We'll say func ask question. Open close parens, open brace. Then button1 dot set image UIImage named countries 0. So the first country flag in our array. And for this for parameter, I'll do dot normal. Then copy and paste that twice more. And say, in fact, that's going to be button 2 set image will be countries 1. And button 3 set image is going to be countries 2. Now this first line is of course easy enough. We're declaring a new method called askQuestion and it takes no parameters. But these next 3, these are new. Yes, you've seen UIImageName before to load an image from our app bundle. In this case, it'll work just fine with asset catalogs as well. And it's reading an array index by position. But the rest of these lines are new and shows off 2 things. First, button1.setImage assigns a UI image to the button. We have the US flag in there in IB right now, but this will change it when askQuestion is called. The second parameter is for.normal. Now the setImage method takes a second parameter that describes which state of the button should be changed. We're specifying .normal here, which means the standard state of the button. Now this normal parameter looks like it's going to be an enum, but it's actually a static property of a struct called UIControlState. In Objective-C, the language UIKit was written in, it's an enum. But in Swift, it gets mapped to a struct that just happens to be used like an enum. So, if you want to be technically correct, it's not truly an enum in Swift. At this point in your Swift career, fine, there's no difference. But let's face it, being technically correct is the best kind of correct. Now we have our country set up and a method to display flags. All we have to do is add one more line just before the end of UIButton load. to make it all spring to life. After assigning this array of countries, we're going to say ask question, just to call that method we wrote a minute ago. At this point, the game's in a fit state to run, so press Command R to build and run in Simulator. When the game runs, you'll immediately see two problems. First, we're showing the Estonian and the French flags, both of which have white in them, so it's hard to tell whether they're flags or just blocks of colour. Second, our game isn't much fun. It's always the same three flags: Estonia, France and Germany. That second problem is going to have to wait a few minutes, but we can fix the first problem now. One of the many powerful things about views in iOS is that they're backed by what's called a CALayer, which is a core animation type responsible for managing the way your view looks. Conceptually, CALayer sits below all your UI views. That's the parent of UIButton, UITableView, UIImageView, and so on. So it's like an exposed underbelly, giving you lots of options for modifying the appearance of your views, as long as you don't mind dealing with a little bit more complexity. We're going to use one of those appearance options now, called border width. The Estonian flag has a white stripe at the bottom, and the French flag has a white stripe in the middle. And because our view controller has a white background, those white stripes become effectively invisible. We can fix that by giving the layer of our buttons a border width of 1, which would draw a 1-point black line around them. So, back in our view controller, in view.load, before ask questions, we're going to say this: button1.layer.border width equals 1. And copy and paste that for number 2 and number 3. 3, 2. Now, do you remember how points and pixels are different things? Well, in this case, our border will be 2 pixels on Retina devices, because we've specified 1 here, which is the non-Retina size, that's 1 point. So it's doubled on Retina devices, and tripled 3 pixels on Retina HD devices. Thanks to the automatic point-to-pixel multiplication, this border will visually appear to have more or less the same thickness on all devices. Now, by default, the border of CALayer is black, but you can change that if you want to by using the UI color data type. Now, I said that CALayer brings with it a little bit more complexity, and here's where it starts to be visible. CALayer sits at a lower technical level, a lower code level than UIButton, which means it has no idea what a UI color is. UIButton knows what a UI color is because they're both part of the same framework, UIKit, but CALayer is below UIButton, so it has no idea what a UI color is. Don't despair though, CALayer has its own way of setting colors called CG color, which comes from Apple's core graphics framework. This, like CALayer, is at a lower level than UIButton, so the two can talk happily. Again, as long as you're happy with the extra complexity. Even better, UI color, which again sits above CG color, is able to convert to and from CG color easily, which means you don't have to worry about the complexity. Hooray! So let's put all that together into some code that changes our border color using UI color and CG color together. Below this border width code, I'm going to say button1.layer.border color equals UI color.lightgray.cg color. I'll hide this bar on the right here to make more space. And again, I'll copy and paste that for button 2 and button 3. So all 3 buttons are the same light grey border. As you can see, UI color has a light grey property that returns, shock, a UI color with a light grey color. But we can't put that directly into our border color property because it belongs to a CALayer, which doesn't know what a UI color is. And so we add this .cg color to the end to have it converted to a CG color automatically, which is perfect. If this light grey does not interest you, you can, if you want to, create your own color. You could say UI color, have the initializer, then use the red, green, blue alpha initializer, this one here. Say something like, red 1.0, green 0.6, blue 0.2, alpha 1.0. Just make sure you use .cg color at the end to convert that UI color back to a regular CG color. There are 4 values here, as you can see. They're all written as values from 0, which is none of that color, through 1, all of that color. So we have full red here, just over half green, a little bit of blue, and alpha, i.e. opacity, is full, so it's fully opaque. Now, any pedants listening to this will remind me, I'm sure, by email or by comments in the YouTube post, that actually these values can go beyond 1.0 thanks to Apple's wide color system on their phones and tablets. So it can go beyond 1.0 to be super red, but most of the time, using this kind of thing is just fine. Anyway, that's enough with styling. I'm going to go back to light grey by pressing undo a few times. There we go. Then press Command R again to build and run our code, and hopefully it'll look much better. There we go. Little grey border around, just to separate where the flag starts and ends.